Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by JockaCoaching.com, where you can get a 7-day free trial at jocka.poker/TPE. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in feral, socialist, New York City, happy to be bringing you yet another episode of the world's longest-running poker strategy podcast. Incredible feedback on last week's episode, which was the second appearance here on the podcast by Terrence T.J. Reed, who is a member of the Poker Media and also a member of the Multi-Millionaires Club, number 3, by the way, on the Missouri all-time money list. And this week he reviewed some key hands that he played in the $26,000 super main event back in December down there in the Bahamas, where he final tabled and earned his status as a poker-made multi-millionaire. You can actually access the video of that hand history review with the great Faraz Jocka, who gives incredibly insightful feedback. I learned so much from watching this. You guys can check that out for free along with your free trial. Once again, jocka.poker/TPE. I'm excited, guys, because I'm about to get out of this freezing cold weather. It hit 3 degrees today in New York, and I'm over it. Next week, I'm going to Florida. I'm going to be headlining Gregory's Comedy Club in Cocoa Beach, Florida, not too far from Cape Canaveral. February 5th, 6th, and 7th. Should be a great time. I've been to that club before, but it's probably been like a good 10 years since I was there. I'm very excited to go back. And since I'll be in Florida and the WSOP circuit will also be in Florida, I'm going to take the drive, maybe 2 or 3 hour drive over to Pompano Beach. And I have time to play in the last 2 events that are part of the circuit series they have running there at Pompano Park Racetrack. I've always loved that place. I actually worked there as a singer many years ago. We're not going to do another sample like we did last time I mentioned Pompano. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a week in Florida. I'll do some comedy. I'll play some cards. And I'm actually finally going to break the ice and get my first live tournament action of the year 2026. By the way, if you guys want to grab tickets for my shows in Cocoa Beach next weekend, you can find that at ClaytonFletcher.com. All right, now I'd like to go over a hand from 2 weeks ago that we didn't get to last week because of our special guest, and one from that special guest last week. So we're going to review 2 previously discussed hands using my favorite solver, GTO Wizard. And the first one, you may recall, comes from the January 16th episode. It's a $109 online tournament. The blinds were 7,000 and 14,000 with an 800 ante. We are in the money with 270K, so just about 20 big blinds. And the action folds to me on the button. I've got the 10 of spades and 10 of hearts. So pocket 10s on the button, and I decided to open to 28K, so just a min raise to 2 big blinds there, and only the big blind calls. So let's see what GTO Wizard has to say. The Wizard likes my open. We do open to 2 big blinds 73% of the time, and the other 27% of the time, guys, we're actually supposed to limp in. So in theory, off of a 20 big blind stack, we should have a pretty robust limping range, and then pocket 10s would be one of the stronger hands, of course, in that range. We want to be able to limp with a lot of weak hands with this type of stack, and so because of that, we need to have some strong hands in there as well. So the plan would be to limp in, hope that the small blind or big blind raise so that we can shove over the top and collect a nice pot, probably without seeing a flop. But if we do have to see a flop, going to war with pocket 10s at this stack depth is not so bad. But I did the min raise and only the big blind called. So now with 60,000 in the pot, we saw a flop of jack of clubs, 5 of hearts, 4 of clubs. And I didn't have a club in my hand. I had pocket tens, no club. Big blind checked, and I bet half the pot, 30 into 60. The wizard doesn't like it. The wizard doesn't bet half the pot with this hand at all. It checks back 99% of the time with tens. So what kind of hands would bet half the pot? Well, you've got a lot of Jack X, top pair type hands. You've also got pocket queens, pocket kings, betting that size. And then to balance that range, which we have a lot of flush draws, especially hands like king of clubs, 6 of clubs. They do this quite often because they've got an overcard, a flush draw, backdoor straight draw. So when you have a whole lot of equity and a lot of good cards on the turn, those are the hands that we mostly want to put into our semi-bluffing or bluffing range on the flop. But yeah, the point is pocket tens is supposed to check it back, so I'm already out of line. The turn came the king of hearts. We had 120 in the middle at that point, and the big blind checked, and I checked it back, capping my range. And that was the point of finding this hand. I wanted to see a hand where I had to make a decision whether or not to go for value on the river, having capped my range with a check back on the turn, because on Jocka Coaching, I had worked on this concept by watching a video by Jeremy Menard, really getting in there and looking at this particular spot, which does seem to come up, a fair bit in a typical tournament. So we check it back here on the turn, which obviously the wizard never has pocket tens at this point, but similar hand might be something like pocket eights, pocket sevens, and these hands do check behind quite a lot on 4th Street. So now the river comes the jack of diamonds, and villain checks again. I went for a half pot bet for value on the river, 60K into 120K, and the wizard again doesn't like my choice. Actually does like the choice to bet. We bet quite often on this river, but for a much bigger size, guys. We're supposed to be going like at least 80K, 90K, not this 60K stuff that I did. Even a pot size bet, even shoving sometimes. So I can't really give myself credit for this play, especially because the sizing is so off. The value range does include hands like pocket eights, pocket sevens, pocket sixes. So safe to assume if we could have tens, we would want to value bet them as well. But yeah, a much bigger size. So my half pot bet is definitely not GTO Wizard approved. And you guys can see how using this tool could improve your play. You learn how a theoretically perfect robot, artificial intelligence crusher would play any spot at all. You can really adjust the settings. How many big blinds did we have? Was it a cash game or a tournament? What type of tournament? Were we in the money? Is it an ICM spot? Are there bounties? You can plug all that stuff in and then figure out how the strategy changes and how close to playing like a perfect robot you came yourself. And if you guys want to try this out, I've got a great deal for you. You can save 10% by clicking our affiliate link, which is gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, let's do another one. As promised, we're going to go over the strategy hand that Terrence TJ Reed, multi-millionaire poker player / media personality, brought to the podcast last week. You may recall it comes from the $26,000 World Series of Poker Super Main Event, as played in Paradise Island, Bahamas, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So the blinds were 15K and 30K, and villain has 1.6 million, 55 big blinds, and that is going to be the effective stack, because at this point Terrence was already crushing with like 90 some big blinds, about 2.7 million, and the under the gun player raised it to 60K off of a stack of 1.6 million. Action folds to hero Terrence in the cutoff, and he's got the beautiful ace of spades, ace of clubs. What would you rather look at? To me, that is actually my favorite hand, believe it or not. I love pocket rockets. And I would have 3-bet to 180. Terrence got cute and made it 160. The Wizard always 3-bets pocket aces and always to 3x. We don't want to be getting cute with a smaller, hoping to induce or what have you. But yeah, the Wizard doesn't fool around with that. If we're going to 3-bet ace king to 3x, we've got to 3-bet ace ace, jack jack. All the 3-betting hands need to be the same sizing. So 3 times the original raise is correct, but it's not a huge mistake, obviously. We just have a little bit more wiggle room post-flop. And then, of course, the original raiser called. And with 405 in the middle, the flop comes jack of diamonds, 7 of spades, tray of hearts, jack 7 tray, rainbow, and villain checks. Terrence decided to bet just 100K into the pot of 405. So under a quarter pot, but close enough. So the Wizard loves this. We're doing this 41% of the time, but the Wizard actually goes a little bigger, more like half the pot, more often, 58% of the time, and doing some other weird sizings, some other percentage of the time. But yeah, we can obviously give Terrence credit here for his quarter pot bet. GTO Wizard approved, and then villain calls, and the turn comes the 8 of diamonds, and then both players check on this card. And let's see what the Wizard has to say about Terrence's decision to check behind on 4th Street. Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a very mixed strategy on this card. Terrence and I went into pretty graphic detail about the arguments for and against betting on 4th Street. And so, not surprisingly, when there are merits to both plays, the Wizard likes to split it up. So we can check back 30% of the time. We're betting about a quarter pot 38% of the time, and about half the pot 30% of the time. So obviously checking back is totally okay. And then the river comes the 6 of clubs. And you guys might remember villain does this weird donk lead about a third of the pot out of nowhere after check calling the flop and then check on the turn. He leads into us on the river, and I didn't want to raise, but Terrence did raise and actually got called by worse. But let's see what the Wizard has to say about Terrence's decision to raise to 3x the bet. Well, the Wizard never does this. The Wizard also never folds. So the options are we can call, or actually the Wizard prefers the shove. So it seems like maybe Terrence did have the right idea, trying to get action from a hand like pocket queens, I guess, or ace jack maybe. But yeah, Terrence made a play that the Wizard does not approve, also known on the site as a blunder. So this would have to be considered a blunder, but shoving would not have been a blunder at all. In fact, the Wizard shoves here about 66% of the time and calls the rest. And then let's see, just for the sake of argument, what is villain's range for betting on the river and then calling the shove? Because I'm very curious, guys. At some point, Terrence and I went back and forth over whether ace jack would ever be able to get away from it if we somehow got all of these chips in. And it turns out ace jack has to call. If ace jack plays this way, ace jack has to call the shove. Pocket queens really rarely gets to this point, but when it does, it has to call the shove. Of course, hands that beat us, like pocket jacks, for example, are never folding with top set. Queen jack suited, about 50-50. King jack suited, calling obviously more often than that, 61%. But yeah, the point here, guys, is that we have a value shove with one pair and 55 blinds effective. So yeah, pretty wild. I don't know how many players would actually play this way in a $26,000 buy-in tournament. And I certainly can't blame Terrence for trying to keep the pot a little bit smaller, because at the end of the day, he just had one pair. Very enlightening there from GTO Wizard. Again, you guys can get 24 hours free and then save 10% by using our affiliate link. gtowizard.com/p/TPE. All right, let's do one more hand. And this one actually comes from an online tournament that I played, a small stakes, $11 buy-in with a $7,500 guaranteed prize pool, which was beat. I think it was more like 9,000 this time. And we're early. Registration is still open for like another hour and a half. The blinds are 400, 800 with a 100 ante per player. And we are at an 8-handed table. Hero with about 50K in the stack at a time when the average was right around 60K. I'm under the gun. I've got about 63 big blinds, and I've got the Queen of Clubs, Queen of Hearts under the gun. First to act. Obviously, we're going to raise this. I went for the minimum. I suspect that the Wizard is going to want to do more like 2.3 bigs at this depth, but I made it 1,600 to go, and the action folds all the way around to the button who calls and the small blind who also calls. Now, they both have me covered. The button's got 73,000 and the small blind has 90,000. Now, with 6,400 in the middle, the flop comes 9 of diamonds, 9 of clubs, 6 of spades. So 996, rainbow, hero with the Queen of Clubs, Queen of Hearts. The small blind checks. And the first thing I notice is that it's a very good flop for my hand and my range. Now, what I mean by that is it's unlikely that the button called and under the gun open with a 9 in his hand. Maybe he could have pocket sixes and have flopped a full house. But again, as always, we're not going to worry about everything. And then the small blind should be very, very unlikely to have a 9 or even a 6 in his hand. He might have pocket sixes, of course. He could have any pair below 9s a lot, I think. But yeah, I felt like it was a great flop for me, and I decided after the small blind checked, I decided to value bet, and I put in half the pot, betting 3,200 into the pot of 6,400, and only the button called. The small blind got out of the way, and now with 13,000 in the middle, we've still got 46,000 remaining in our stack, and the turn comes the 4 of spades, bringing a flush draw on the board of 9 of diamonds, 9 of clubs, 6 of spades, 4 of spades. So the question now is, do we want to go for value again? Are we at all worried about being behind? If we don't think we're behind, do we think we should worry about losing our opponent if we bet again, right? Like if he doesn't have much, can we really get 3 streets of value? Is the plan to bet now and then check the river? So what are we trying to do? Well, guys, for me, I just wasn't that concerned about this board. I feel like opponent is going to have a pair a good amount of the time. He could also have a draw. He might have like an 8-7 type of hand, something like that. Maybe he picked up a flush draw here on the turn, right? So I want to try to get value now. I'm not going to sweat the small stuff. Like if he's got a 9, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm going to lose my whole stack. I'm not really sure because I just don't really think he should have that many 9s in his range. Sure, maybe like 10-9 suited, 9-8 suited, but not all the time. And there just aren't that many combos there. He shouldn't be calling my under the gun open with a 9 in his hand all that much. So what does he have? Maybe he's got pocket 10s, which can certainly call at least some of the time in position. Doesn't have to 3-bet the under the gun open. Maybe same for pocket jacks, pocket 8s, pocket 7s, and then the hands we're worried about, pocket 6s and pocket 4s, which now have a full house. But I have a feeling I'm good, and so I bet again. Half the pot on the turn, I put in 6,500 into 13,000, and once again, Villain made the call. So now this pot is getting big. We've got 25K in the middle, and I've got about 40K left in my stack, and the river comes the 7 of spades, bringing in the backdoor flush on a board of 9 of diamonds, 9 of clubs, 6 of spades, 4 of spades, 7 of spades. So now you're sitting there with pocket queens, you're out of position, and Villain just keeps calling do we have a value bet once more on this scare card? Well, guys, I felt like in this $11 online tournament, I have nothing to fear. I can still get value from pocket 10s, pocket jacks, pocket 8s, possibly a hand like 7-6, 7-8 that finally made a pair on the river. And the key is, I felt like all of those hands would be loath to bet into this scary board if I checked. And I just didn't want to lose that value. I'm trying to maximize my value propositions in small stakes tournaments because these are the tournaments where you're not worried about getting bluff raised. I can bet, and if he does raise, I can fold the queens, whatever. You must have it. You've got to be afraid that I have something strong, and if I do, because you normally play small stakes tournaments, you don't expect me to be able to fold something strong. And so that's why at the smaller stakes, you just don't see a lot of bluff raising because those plays just don't work as often when the buy-ins are low and the players give more action. They just do. So for all of those reasons, I went for the bet and I was planning to fold if villain shoved. So I put in half the pot, 12,500, and villain called, and my plan worked out perfectly. I ended up winning a very large pot. Villain, by the way, had the 8 of spades, 8 of diamonds, one of the hands it felt like he had all along. So as I don't choke on my beer while I'm patting myself too much on the back, it's okay to celebrate the small victories every so often. And that'll do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure that you subscribe. And especially I want you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Even if you guys don't use it, just getting that subscriber count up could help me a lot. My name on YouTube, like it is everywhere else, is at Clayton Comic. And so for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks to our sponsor, Jaka Poker, jaka.poker/TPE. I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.